What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. Oh man, a lot going on. A whole lot going on. Right? And people, I'm sure they listen like, what is he talking about? I watched this episode. It was whack. Yeah, we're going to get into that, but there's a bunch of things to talk about with this episode. So, real quick, thanks again, everybody. Thanks again for... Oh, that was my phone. Sorry. Thanks, everybody, for subscribing, whether on YouTube, on Spotify, iTunes. We're seeing some pretty good numbers. Seeing good numbers. Not everybody follows. That's fine. You know, some people just want to just click and what. That's whatever. I do the same thing. I'm in the same boat with other things. But thanks again for everybody, whether you're commenting or just subbing over on the Koalition, checking out the website. Again, just thanks. It's great. I mean, you gotta understand, it's not just about us. This is about the show. We all appreciate the shows, especially Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead. Not so much World Beyond. It's garbage. But you know what? We have hope for all the other spin-offs. Hopefully they work. And as these outlets grow, these fan outlets grow, AMC, they see this. So they see that there's an interest, and then they keep going with it and try to make the product better. So let's just keep it going. So again, real quick, thanks again. And I am your host, Adam Vale. I'm joined by Richard Bailey Jr.
Yes, thank you everybody for checking out the show. And how you doing, Adam?
Yeah, I'm good. And we are from the Koalition. That's with a K, thekoalition.com. So go check that out. We do games, TVs, movies, you name it, we do it. So yeah, let's get into this, man. Let's get into this because I was about to blow up before we started recording, Rich. Because I got a little hot. So this is for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 10, Handle with Care. All right, full warning, there are spoilers. If you came across this podcast and like, oh, are they just going to do a preview? No. This is a spoiler. We're going to discuss it. We're going to break it down. All right, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it. You can watch it on AMC Plus if you're doing this early. If not, you can wait till Sunday and then come back and just jump on in. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. All right. So this episode threw a lot at us, a lot of red herrings. It's right off the bat we see with Daniel, and it looks like he's talking to someone. And the way the camera worked, it looked like he was behind bars, right? When I saw, I'm like, oh, all right, something's going on. The other group must have captured them. They're now interrogating. I was like, all right, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting take on all this. But that's not the case. And I really wish it was, because this, you know what, it's bound to happen, right? This, Fear the Walking Dead has been running red hot this season. Every episode, just banger story, the cinematography, everything has been on point. We've talked about it. We love it. And we knew eventually there was going to be one that's like, well, what was this? What was this? And that's what this one was. This is just going to bloop, because there's a lot that happens here. Maybe within like the first 15, 20 minutes where you're like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And then it just like flatlines. Like, whoa, that was a stinker. Everything is out the window. So let's just get right into that first encounter. So it looks like time had passed. I didn't see anything pop up on the screen that said how much time. Did you see anything, Rich?
No,
No, right? You would expect it. I mean, Fear Walking Dead proper, when they did that with the time jump, they showed it. It's like 6 years, they said, or something to that effect. And then, of course, we talked about it in those other episodes recently where they were doing the time jump 6 months, 2 months, whatever. I was expecting that here, but we don't see that. But obviously, some time has passed, because then we see that we have some visitors showing up over to, again, the unknown community of Morgan. He still hasn't named it. I was hoping that they would have a name at this point, but there's no name. We see Sherry show up. We see Strand show up, or Victor, as they want to keep calling him now. You know, yes, it was his first name, but we've talked about the issues that we have with the naming on this show. You know, with June and all right. So that's a pain in the ass. I'm not even bringing it up anymore. Then we also have Sarah, who is, I guess, representing June. And did they specify if June is now back at Lofton with Strand?
No,
They didn't, right?
Well. I believe it was earlier in the episode. Sarah alluded to the fact that June was was with her. But I thought that Sarah was actually with the group already, so it was confusing. We know June is off on her own, doing her own thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because when we see there at the gates there, and we see the groups there, they're like, oh, it's about time. It's been a while since we all got together. We have to talk about what's going on, our new strategies, our plans, this, and that. So, we got Sherry with her crew, we got Strand, and then, yeah, Sarah's there. And I was like, well, so June went with Sarah somewhere else, but where? Where did they go? Because we know early in the beginning season, remember when Sarah showed up to go when Virginia brought Sarah back to Lofton to be with John, she was in another community. Mm-hmm. So is that where she went? Did she go back to that community? But what's the name of that community? Who else is there? And how did you recruit Sarah? And where's Sarah's brother? Right?
Wendell.
Wendell.
Yep.
Where's Wendell? I mean, for a second there, I'm like, yo, he's dead. And then you're like, no, he's not dead. We got to look it up. No, he is not dead. But he's also not relevant because they don't even bring him up. No one even asks. Here it is. They're all talking and shaking hands like, oh, yeah, long time no see. No one says, hey, by the way, how's your brother doing? You know?
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. No one cares. All right. So anyway, they're all together like, all right, let's go inside and talk. So at this point, we sort of have some back and forth narration because it looks like it's mentioned in the beginning, as you all know, Daniel is telling this story to someone. And it turns out that he was saying, oh, well, I wanted to start anew here. And so I was like, hey, no weapons. Everybody had to check in your weapons. Only 2 people had the keys to the storage area for weapons, myself and Morgan. So then at this point, Morgan takes off. I don't remember what he said. He said he had to go do something. He's out. So Daniel is the second in command now. Didn't know that. That's just how it is, right? So he's in second command. So he was like, all right, we're going to handle this. All right, we're going to have a discussion. He has all the weapons checked in. They do a little back and forth for Strand. It was like, oh, I always carry my weapons. Like, oh, give me a knife. No, we're not playing any of this stuff. I mean, I don't know why they made Strand such a badass on this type of front. It just doesn't come off natural, but whatever. You know, I'm just going with it. So they sit at this table, and now they're trying to figure out their plans and what they're going to do. So no one trusts anyone here. And if I remember right, they didn't say anything else, right? There was no other issues. I'm trying to remember because there was an argument that ensued, and I think it was because they were trying to get information about the other group, and they had Dakota there, and they were pissed off that she was there. And then they're complaining. Yep. They're like, why is she here? I was like, well, Virginia's, whatever. They didn't bring up the whole thing with the daughter. I still don't think everybody knows. But they were like, if anybody knows anything about this other group, it would be Virginia. Virginia's gone, so Dakota was right with her, so maybe she knows. Do you know anything about this? Did she ever bring them up? Oh, she she put them into hiding. They went underground. I don't know much. And they're going back and forth on this. Everyone is bickering. They're arguing about it, and you hear the narration of Daniel just talking about. It's like, hey, he should have seen this coming because he lied to them when he said he had his memory loss. Remember that whole thing? And he says, here it is. Everybody's lying to each other now. Who knows? You can't trust anyone. And this was very random, and this is where I was kind of confused with how they explained this. You see a big explosion happen behind him.
Yeah.
He falls down. Everybody scatters. They're freaking out, trying to figure out. And he runs over and he says, no, this wasn't anything. There was no attack or anything. What was it that he said? They laid out landmines or dynamite, and that a boulder must have fallen on top of one of them to trigger it?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you have landmines around? Like planted dynamite? I don't get that part. Because that happened within the campgrounds. I can understand if you have outside of the fencing area, some distance away, in some areas that you don't scout or you don't patrol, that if it gets triggered by a walker or something, then you know. But this seems like this was within the camp area. Again, they don't really show a good view. So I can't really... We know it's in a canyon, but we don't really get a good view of the structures and the walls and how large is this camp. We don't get to see that, and that would have helped in this part because they're having all these issues with this. So right there, right off the bat, what did you think of that, Rich, of explaining how this dynamite and that a boulder fell on it, and that's what caused the explosion? Did you buy that?
I didn't buy that. I personally think that's going to be a cause of confusion for a lot of viewers because I mean, what we do know is that all three groups had a difference on how to deal with Virginia. So I'm assuming that was still some tension, and it was never really addressed that yes, we took out Virginia or Virginia got taken out. They never the other two groups, Victor Strand and the other group, they never really knew about what happened with
They don't
Virginia.
even
They
ask.
didn't even ask.
They didn't
Yeah.
even ask.
So I mean I know from the previous episode they did not agree with what Morgan wanted to do, but they still went along with it. So I thought that there would still be some lingering, you know, anger about how he dealt with the situation, but the fact that they didn't address Virginia at all, that just made it just completely meaningless, I guess. But there was still tension as far as whether or not they can trust each other.
Yeah.
So I didn't buy the Boulder excuse. I just figured something happened to get attention, and that was put in there to basically start this whole storyline of somebody took the gun, the weapons, all this other stuff.
Oh yeah, well then exactly, we're gonna get to that now because as they're all over there, at least the key members. Because that's the other thing, we don't know what happened to the other group that was with Dwight and Al. We know that they're here, but we don't see them. I mean, we see Grace and some of the people, but we don't see all of them. And this is whatever. I get it. You don't want to have everybody on set. So, but it would have been cool just to see people walking in the background, sort of like how they did with Lofton, and sort of how we see it over in Alexandria, where you just see randos walking around. Doesn't matter. It just shows that it's being lived in. This does not look lived in at all. But anyway, so they're there and they're talking about it, and they're all pointing fingers because they instantly, well, Dakota, she must be in on it. She's like, I was there with you at the table, it's not me. And they were like, well, maybe there's one of the others that the end is the beginning. Maybe, well, they don't even say the end is beginning. We're saying it, but they know about the graffiti everywhere. But they said that it must be somebody within their camp. They're like, somebody's doing this. And so, well, I don't think anyone did this. Of course, Daniel was like, this was an accident. But still, we'll see what's going on. So then that's when he goes to get their weapons, to get some weapons, and realize that all the weapons are gone. And so he starts freaking out, and he's like, what? He goes up to Strand, you took the guns, and this. He's like, what are you talking about? I didn't take anything. And this. They start arguing, whatever. Right? And then it's where he would, again, jumping back and forth with the narration, where we see him behind the bars, where from the angle it looks like he's behind bars, talking about everything that's taking place, like it's an interrogation. But the next scene, we see that there's a bunch of walkers now, right? There was like another explosion or something going on. It was some big noise that happened. And then we just see all these walkers coming in. Everyone's freaking out. They're fighting. They're doing the whole thing. Eventually, and we've talked about this on this podcast, how we find it kind of silly that these walkers can overpower actual humans that are healthy. You're a dead man. You're a dead woman. You're a walker. You should be goop. You should be soft goop. There should be no like, oh man, he's overpowering me. And that's what we see with Dwight. He falls over. He's like, oh, I'm like, come on now. Cut the BS. You should be able literally to just pop the head off of this thing. It should just be soft mush. But whatever. He's on the ground. There's one on top. And then we hear a gunshot. And who's there? It's Strand. Strand's with a gun. He's pointing it. And then we see that Daniel has a gun. And they're all dead. All the walkers, they killed all of them. And it's like, all right. So what's going on? He's like, see, I did this on purpose. Daniel opened up the gate or destroyed it because they showed a little bit. I did this. This made no sense at all. Because if you have a community with people, why are you going to put them all at risk just to prove a point? Or to try to prove a point of that Strand took the gun. It was really stupid, but whatever. He's like, yeah, I did that to let them in to see. And look, he has a gun. He shot. So where the gun? So then he goes, and then that's when we see that this whole time, it's not Daniel behind bars. It's that he's talking to Strand. Which is also weird that you're telling Strand all this.
Yeah.
because Strand was there for most of this. So I guess that, again, like I said, the red herring right there, red herring number one, blink. All right, so this was all BS, this part. So it wasn't that they got captured. The other group was not involved. This is just all him, right, dealing with all this. So right there, before I go on, what did you think of that whole? Oh yeah, I let the walkers into our community now, and to see if who's gonna whip out a gun first.
I think that was an absolute horrible decision because that could have backfired. And what if Daniel ended up getting bitten by one of the walkers? Then that's it for him. Game over. So wasn't a wise decision to try to prove a point. And the other point that I was going to make is what I think it was confusing because what I thought they were trying to do is when the episode started and you had Daniel talking, looked as though he was behind bars. I actually thought they used the combination of when he was behind bars and then when he was talking to Strand. So I will have to go back and watch that again a little bit more closely because it did look like he was in the jail cell a couple of those times. So I don't know if they used a combination of when he was in there and when Strand was in there to try to throw
Oh,
us
so
off.
you're thinking that maybe this was a combination of when they were asking him after the
Yeah,
fact. It could have been
yeah,
because, but then again, they didn't lock him up. I'm pretty sure they didn't lock him up, even when they find out, which we'll get to. In fact, we'll get to it now. Why not? All right. So during this whole time, though, they were asking, like, well, maybe it was Grace. Maybe Gracie. He's like, no, I sent her. Well, he says that he sent her to the cabin, and I heard
hmm
him say the cabin.
yep,
Right? We heard. That's the thing that pisses me off with this because now they're trying to make it seem like we're crazy. Because we heard him say the cabin. Go to the cabin. Lucia or would be there. Someone. He went to the fact that it's going to be some other people there. He said, just go there. You should be okay. Because he knew what he was going to do, and he didn't want to put her in harm's way. So that whole thing comes up, but it just gets crazy. So then at this point now it's Daniel interrogating Strand, pointing a gun, talking about how he's gonna shoot him in the face and you're gonna be in pain and all this stuff. And then he shows when he got shot in the face by
hmm
Strand. That was kind of interesting, showing that he has something wrong with his mouth, and then I was like, whoa, where are we going with this? Why don't you just stay like that? I mean, come on now. We got over here, we got Dwight with a burnt face, okay? With a burnt face. And I'm going to get into Dwight and Sherry in a minute, too, because there's some issues I have with that whole thing, with that part.
yeah.
But, I mean, that was kind of interesting. And he says, oh, and then you see Strand's face. And later on, when Strand was like, oh, was that real? What I that you were having those issues? Oh, dude, you shot him in the face. I mean, you see the hole. You see what's going on. Was that real? What is this of how he feels and stuff? Come on now. You should be thankful you're even alive. If it was me, I would have shot you. Once I'm free, I'm like, all right, back in the last episode, we're all free. All right. Oh, wait, hold on. I got one thing to do. What? Boom! Bullet to the head. All right, June, you took out Virginia. I took out Strand. But while he's doing this, pointing gun, right, there's more walkers, right? Because then some
hmm
more walkers show up, and that's still happening because they didn't close up the hole, and all kinds of stuff is going on. And then we hear gunshots, right? We
Yep.
hear a lot of gunshots. So then he goes running over. He goes out there, and we see it's Morgan, and everything has been calmed, right? He already killed everybody. He's like, "What's happening here? What
hmm
went down? What's going on?" And then that's when he starts saying the whole thing. It's like, well, the guns are missing, this and this and that. And he's like, well, the first thing he cares about, where's Grace? So I sent her to the cabin. So he's trying to get hold, is Morgan trying to get hold of Grace on the walkie. She's now replying, here's one of my other issues. Where are you charging these walkie talkies? I don't see generators. I don't
That's
hear
a good
about generators.
question.
Where are you charging? I can understand back at Lofton because they talked about having generators. There's no generators here in this little canyon. We stand in the unknown area. Come on now. And the place is all about naming things, especially the Walking Dead universe, sanctuaries, and all this stuff. Name this fucking community already. Name it, because there's no name for it. But whatever. I don't. That's the first thing I'm thinking. I was like, well, maybe her walkie-talkie's dead because I don't know how you guys are charging it. Solar power? I don't know. So anyway, he's calling. He's talking. He doesn't hear anything. Right. So then after a while, she does reply back. Right? And it turns out that she was in some kind of caves area or something like that. It was some other. I forgot what they called it. I'm blanking on what he called it. It was some canyons or canals or something. It was some other area. So she's there, and he's like, "What are you doing here? I told you to go to the cabin." This is Daniel. She's like, "No, you didn't." And she's there with Charlie, because Charlie was with her. And he's like, "Yeah, I did. I told you, go to the cabin." And no, you told me to go here. He's like, "No, what do you mean?" And then they whip out the map, and it's his handwriting, and he wrote it. He wrote everything down, and he was like, "What's going on here?" He's like, I don't know. I don't know. And that was the other thing, too, that we saw beforehand that they never really went through, and it was when Charlie was looking through people's things.
Yep.
But
the other group. Yep.
Yeah, the other group. But he said that one of the guys found her doing it, and then Daniel said, "Oh no, I told her because I'm looking for a hammer," and the whole thing. They never went back to that, which is why I didn't even bother bringing it up. But I figured I'd bring it up now because that's the only other time we see her with this whole thing. And it's like, yeah, where does that play into it? Because
they just trying to create tension with, we cannot trust these people, we can't trust each other, because the whole reason I guess he had her looking to see, did they steal the weapons.
Yeah.
But the problem that I have with everything, like you described, the biggest issue I have with this episode is that not once did they show us what actually happened. Like, they could have thrown in a scene in here and show Daniel. Daniel actually did take the weapons, and yes, he did tell them to go somewhere else. And that was the issue I had, because when he came to the revelation that, oh, well, I guess I was the one that did this, we could have got a shot right before that, a quick flashbacks of this is what actually happened, and we didn't get any of that.
And also the time span. It looks like this all happened within like a couple of hours.
Yes.
Because it was still like broad daylight. At no point was it going toward sundown or anything. They didn't spend the night or anything. We don't see that. So the fact that the others even have a tent, I'm like, what is happening here? Throw in some numbers at the bottom, day 2 or something. Come on. Because this is getting a little confusing. So anyway, they get back to the camp. And they start searching, and then I don't know where at some point, but they were like, "Hey, let's just search Daniel's tent area." And poof, they find all the guns neatly piled. And they're like, "Oh, you have all the guns. How did this happen?" He's like, I don't know. Somebody's setting me up. This doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on. And they were like, "Oh, the best. This is the best part." And this is where I paused it, and I just like looked up at the sky. I was like, "What am I watching?" When Morgan looks up, he's like, "I think you need to talk to somebody." Where are you going to find a fucking counselor here? Where are you going to find a professional to help with whatever dementia or whatever he's developing right now? It was so out of nowhere to hear, "You need to talk to someone." What the? Are you kidding me? It was just, oh man, that line, whoever wrote that, they were trying to get a laugh. They were definitely trying to get a laugh.
So can I ask a question?
Go for it.
In the previous episode, when when it was the standoff with Virginia, and Daniel got hit in the head, are we trying to say that this is the result of him getting hit in the head? Because I didn't understand where they were going with. That's the only thing I could think of.
We're gonna get to that now. Yeah. We'll get to that now, because then they go to talk to Sarah, because Sarah's the right hand to June, and she can't handle all this. She's just their assistant. She's not a doctor or anything. So I guess she goes back and she gets June, because then that's when we also see that he's talking to June. Right? So now he's back in that seat, but they're not looking across, and now it's June. And she's talking to him about, to read this chart. Do you remember the names that I told you earlier, the words I told you earlier, and this and this and that? And we don't go through all of it, but it looks like he is responding well to her questions, and he can remember things. But so she's saying that this sounds more like traumatic memory loss that he's having, as opposed to a traditional Alzheimer's or dementia. And I was really leaning toward dementia with it. I was like, isn't it ironic that you played off that you can't remember anything when you were dealing with the whole thing with ironic. Virginia, and then now you actually can't remember shit. Now things are getting crazy. Yeah, right? But that's not how this went down. It's not how this went down at all. So she's like, well, maybe over time we'll figure this out. It's just gonna take time. And we'll do some more tests and this and that. She goes to that effect, but Okay, but it's just weird. Then what's, like you said? That's why I'm bringing it back now. I don't know, because she made it seem like it had nothing to do with. It could be something like he got hit in the head. Maybe when he
Hmm.
did get bonked, that was enough. But she's making it seem like it's more to it, because it's one thing to forget. It's another thing when, like I said, where we don't know how much time passed. How did he move all those guns out with no help?
Yeah, that's a good
There
question.
was a pile of guns, and yet no one saw him do this. I was like, well, maybe Charlie helped, because she's been helping him out with things, so maybe she knows. So they need to ask Charlie, but they don't go through it. They don't get into it. So they're back. Everyone's talking this out, trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and they're like, well, this was a bust, so we're just gonna go off in our ways. We don't really know what's going on." And then that's when Dakota comes running out and said, "Wait, I think I understand. I think I got some more info for you guys." And I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And she was like, "Well, maybe when Virginia was saying that they went back underground, she really meant underground."
Hmm.
So there could be some sewers or caves or something to that effect. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And that's when Dwight starts talking with Al. It's like, well, we do know that they left those markings near that the office building, so we could go back in that area. And it's like, all right, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start searching there and doing the whole thing. And this is the thing that pissed me off at this point, because I was like, again, pause. We see that Strand is there now. He's in charge of the Rangers, right?
Hmm.
The Rangers would know, because Dakota
Yep.
said that she heard Virginia talking to the Rangers about these things. You got Rangers right there with Strand staring at you. Talk to them, ask them. Or are all the Rangers that are relevant dead? you know, with those the loyalists, they all got shot up. That's the thing that pisses me off. I'm like, come on now. Yeah, you're just making them troops, and I guess these are gonna be the randos. Like when you watch those movies, and there's always the ones that die, or the background people. They're part of the group, but they're not really part of the group. Those are the ones you don't care about. They're expendable, and I guess that's why they're there. So when we actually do encounter this other group, we will see a lot of death, but it's gonna be all the Strands Rangers that are gonna be dropping like flies, right? So that was an interesting part. And then again we get another moment with Sherry and Dwight. And he's like, Sherry, and she's like, no, come on, we talked about it. He's like, I know, I just wanted you to be careful and take care. And he gives her a kiss. And again I paused, and I'm like, come on now. First off, for people that listen to this show, you're Walking Dead, right? You're all about Walking Dead. You know The Walking Dead, the proper show. You know Fear and all this stuff. I don't know how many people just watch Fear. And for those that just watch Fear, are probably effing clueless to this relationship.
Yeah.
Because this relationship, if they just tuned in for Fear, have even this season, have no idea what's going on. Why is his wife part of another group? Why are they not together? What's up with his face? Why did she leave him? I mean, there's a lot of story here.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they're not doing anything to it. They're not bringing it up. They're not mentioning, that Negan had multiple wives and he liked Sherry and took Sherry away, and Dwight was against it and he put the iron to his face. And when everything fell apart and she ran off, and then he went on this long search for her. And to finally see them get reunited right before the mid-season break, or was it? Yeah, it was before the mid-season, during that first part. They reunite, and then this is the outcome. They're not even gonna be together for. They're not even together for an episode, because even when they were sort of together, she was like, "No, I'm just a freedom fighter now. Sorry." And it really sucks. It really sucks. And yeah, you don't want the happy ending, but at least explain some of this, because I know that if I had some people watching this with me, and that's the first thing they were going to ask. They would ask,
Hmm.
"What's going on with his wife? Why is she not with him? What's up with his face? Is that what's going on here?" So there's a lot of story there that they're just not addressing, and they should have brought it up. They should have brought it up at some point. and they didn't. And yeah, some people can argue, well, they said a little bit back and forth when they had the episode after they reunited, where they sort of talked back and forth about back in her room. Remember when I guess they were spending some quality time.
Mm-hmm.
But still, this is just there's so much there, and then to just brush it off that this is what it's come down to. That she's just now part. I guess she's a leader of that group now. We don't really know if she's a leader or not, but it looks like she is because she's the representative. When they had this meeting, she shows up. So I guess that's the whole thing. That's their issue. But that's the problem I have with that part. Along with Sarah's brother missing. Who knows where community he's in. So anyway, at this point now we see that everyone's going their separate ways, and then all of a sudden we see that Daniel, he's packing up his horse. You know, he didn't forget that, Mark, so now he knows how to pack up a horse. And so they're like, wait, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to be a danger to all of you. If I can't remember things, and eventually it'll come back to me, but I got to go. And, he says his goodbye to Grace, and then Strand comes over and he says, you can come to Lofton, we'll take care of you, and we'll watch over you. Again, there's no mention with June. She doesn't pop up again. What community is June in? Is she not there? Because I would think if she was part of Lofton at this point, that's when Strand would say June she would be there for you to help you out with this and take care of you. No, he doesn't say that. So she's somewhere else. Are they going to show this other group this other community? I don't know. That's a plot hole right there. They need to fix. So he was like, oh well. All right, I guess so. And then this is the other part that it's still this whole no trust. And then when Morgan goes up to Strand and he's like, are you serious about this? Are you going to take care of him? I wish Strand was like, no, I have plans to kill him. With a straight face, and then roll the credits. Come on now. That was just cheese. I was like, oh man, this show, man. This episode, I should say. This is, So he agrees. And he goes off with them. And I think this was it. Was there anything else that I missed right toward this end, Rich?
No, I mean, that pretty much is it. I mean, the thing is that I will say, I know that we cannot expect every episode to be fantastic because the last 2 episodes have been very good. But I think the problem with this episode is that it had promise when it became a mystery of who did it. Then when they actually reveal who did it, it was a disappointing reveal because it's not the complete answer as to what's going on with Daniel. We don't have a definitive answer for that yet. So it's just a little confusing that how they went about it. But it had promise because with the setup, because from the moment that the episode started, it had me wondering, okay, so who was the culprit? And then when they revealed that it's this guy, it's like, man, I felt that they could have did a much better job with that reveal.
It's like, where are they going with this? What's the point of doing this to Daniel?
Yeah.
Unless he needs to go do something and they're writing him off. Because that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, oh, he's going to ride off in the sunset and he's going to disappear again. And maybe he'll come back with a new group. But no, he's going to town with Strand.
And that right there is the reason, I guess the reason why they did that, because they like, once again, revisiting the relationship between these 2 characters, because clearly they have a love-hate relationship. So I guess they wanted to make that a cause for tension moving forward. But that's the only reason I can think of why they would focus on him now, because obviously now that Virginia is out of the picture, all the focus should be on who is this other group that we need to worry about. And this week, you didn't really get too many answers other than the fact that they could be underground, but that's it.
Yeah. I'm glad to see this actor, Ruben Blades. Turns out I'm related to him. And
really?
That's something my grandma and my mom would always say, that we have some family connection. I don't know. But it was always funny. Yeah, it was always funny whenever we would see this, because they were like, oh, we're related to him. I don't know how that works. But it's funny. Every time I see him, I think about that. I need to look it up. I need to go on that Ancestry and see what the hell's going on with this. Because it's like a cousin, someone married to another woman that had a kid and something like that. He's like a third cousin or something. It's weird. I don't know why I brought it up. Oh, I know why I brought it up, because it's Ruben Blades. It's funny to see him because he's a singer.
Yeah.
And he was in a bunch of other movies. And I remember when he popped up on this show, I was like, oh, wow, that's great. And I didn't think he was going to last this long. And then he disappeared for a while. They made it seem like he died, with the shooting and all that stuff. But we had all these cast members leave the show. And then they decided to bring him back. But then to have this happen, it's like, are you writing him off again? Is this what's going on? I don't know. It's got to go somewhere. And like you said, they didn't show how he did this, how he put this all together. It would have been great to see how he found the time to do all this in broad daylight, because this was all happening in broad daylight. I don't know. But what we do know is that now they are hunting for the other group. That's the plan, at least. Mm-hmm. We see that they're going to go back to that area where the office building is, which is more urban area. There's a lot of office buildings. And I guess they're going to search the sewers and see if they can find these people. And we're going to go into that direction. But overall, this was a dud for me. This was a dud. A lot of red herrings, no positive, no definitive outcome to be like, oh wow, okay, I see this now. I don't see how this makes any sense. I don't see how he found the time to do this. I don't see how all these Rangers don't seem to know anything about this other group. Meanwhile, we got Dakota saying that she heard her sister, mom, telling her Rangers about this, that this was always an issue. So it's a lot of holes there. And again, I don't even know where June is. Where does she live? We don't know. So.
Well, I guess she's off on doing her own thing.
Doing her own thing. All right. What were you gonna say, Rich?
Only thing I was going to add is I agree. A disappointing episode, and if I can give a actual visual representation of the disappointment, the image of Daniel that we are using for this podcast is a perfect way to describe how I feel about this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, it is what it is. So, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and checking this out over at the Koalition, or on YouTube, or iTunes, or on Spotify. Thanks. It's been great. We're enjoying this. This is still a great series. Hopefully, the next episode will be a little better. And we'll just take it from there. But yeah, so this was our discussion and review of Season 6, Episode 10. And have a good weekend, everybody. Hope you enjoyed Just Fear. I'm lost for words right now because I'm still upset. This is it. That's how it ended. Think of it. It's like, you know what I mean? It was like it was just like, okay, he rides off this and that. Boom. Ding. That's it. Roll the credits. I'm like, come on now. This is as if they were in a rush. So like, we gotta put this shit together quick. All right, go into editing, put in Adobe Premiere, stick. Okay, we're done. Peace. Let's go. All right, everybody. We will be back for next week's episode, episode 11. So peace.